Ilhan Omar and what the Justice Department has just revealed, which is a pretty big reveal. Why they're considering denaturalizing one Ilhan Omar and the alleged evidence they have to go on. Ilhan Omar is about to go home.
And if we find out that she screwed up on her immigration stuff, she's got it.
For a moment, Ilhan Omar appeared completely shaken as the deportation storm erupted around her and the atmosphere in Washington shifted in a way no one expected. The tone of the debate changed overnight. This wasn't just another round of loud speeches or trending arguments on social media anymore. Now the focus had moved somewhere far more serious. Lawmakers had started digging into the very foundations of citizenship law itself. And when conversations inside the Capitol begin linking words like denaturalization and deportation to your name, that kind of spotlight can make even the most confident politicians suddenly feel the ground move beneath their feet.
It's a truism of immigration law that if you commit fraud in the course of obtaining your citizenship, if you lie about being that you weren't a Nazi guard at a concentration camp, you can be denaturalized. If you lie about...
The entire situation detonated the moment lawmakers began openly asking whether Ilhan Omar's citizenship story should face a deeper investigation. For years, whispers about it floated only at the fringes of political talk. But suddenly, those same questions were being spoken out loud. They were appearing everywhere, on national television, across major podcasts, and even echoing through the halls of Congress itself. And that shift changes everything. Because the instant elected officials start publicly raising legal questions about a sitting member of Congress, the debate stops being just political theater and starts crossing directly into the territory of law.
Well, embarrassing for the people who elected her that they have no sense. But to see her contempt and right next to her, Rashida Tlaib, another person with an immigrant background. Look, Ilhan Omar has some legal issues regarding her citizenship. I'll just leave it.
So what suddenly pushed this debate into overdrive? It started when several members of Congress stepped forward and openly demanded investigations into Ilhan Omar's immigration past. A few lawmakers went even further, suggesting that if there was ever any hint of immigration fraud, the Justice Department should be the one to dig into it. Now stop for a second and consider how rare that kind of move really is. Politicians clash every single day. They criticize, accuse, and tear into each other nonstop. But publicly urging a denaturalization investigation into a fellow member of Congress? That is not normal political sparring. That kind of accusation takes the fight to an entirely different level.
Your marriage status on which your citizenship depends, or your familial status, or what have you. If you fake any of those documents or you lie, that's a grounds for denaturalization.
This is where the story starts taking a far more serious turn. Many people don't realize this, but under certain conditions, U.S. law actually allows citizenship to be stripped away. The process is known as denaturalization, and it isn't some internet rumor or conspiracy cooked up on social media. It's written directly into federal statute, 8 U.S.C. section 1451. That provision gives the government the authority to cancel someone's citizenship if it was obtained through fraud, false statements, or intentionally hiding important information during the immigration process. Put simply, if a person deceived the system in order to become a citizen, the law states that the government has the power to reverse that citizenship entirely.
Credibly alleged that there are, serious questions about the circumstances of the paperwork around that naturalization. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not working on that issue. That's not part of what the Civil Rights Division does. But I think we need to police that seriously. It is a precious privilege to be granted citizenship as a naturalized citizen.
Denaturalization cases don't happen often, but they absolutely exist. The Justice Department has used this legal weapon before, especially against individuals who entered the United States while hiding dark secrets from their past. There have been cases where people concealed involvement in Nazi war crimes, built entire lives in America, and then, decades later, had their citizenship taken away once the truth finally surfaced. Just pause and really think about that. Someone can spend 40 years living in the country, raising a family, building a career, and still lose their citizenship if the government proves that fraud happened during the immigration process. The principle behind it is simple. If someone deceives the system to gain a legal benefit, they were never truly entitled to that benefit in the first place. Now imagine hearing that exact legal idea suddenly being discussed next to your name on national television. That's the situation Ilhan Omar is facing right now. Her critics aren't just debating her political positions anymore. They're raising questions about whether her journey to American citizenship should be examined. And that shifts the entire conversation into territory far beyond the usual shouting matches you see on cable news.
Matters here at the Civil Rights Division, they include the FACE Act, the city's church case in Minnesota is a notorious example of that, hate crimes cases, those kinds of cases, attacks on houses of worship.
One detail that keeps resurfacing whenever the story reignites is Ilhan Omar's marriage history. In particular, critics constantly point to a marriage from 2009 that has lingered in controversy for years. The name at the center of that discussion is Ahmed Nursaid Elmi. For nearly a decade, online investigators and political opponents have circulated claims suggesting the marriage may not have been genuine and could have been connected to immigration advantages. Omar has firmly rejected those accusations again and again. But despite her denials, the questions surrounding that chapter of her past have never fully faded from the public conversation.
He has 2 children with Mr. Ahmed Hirsi in 2003 and 2006. So it's a real marriage, okay? They're together, they have kids. Then they separated in 2008. She marries again.
So why does this issue carry legal weight? Because under U.S. immigration law, marriage fraud is treated as a serious violation. When authorities determine that a marriage was entered into primarily to secure immigration benefits, the consequences can be severe. And if that kind of deception played any role in someone's path to citizenship, it could potentially open the door to denaturalization proceedings. That isn't just political speculation. It's a principle clearly outlined within immigration enforcement policy and federal law.
Congressman goes around telling everybody about our Constitution, yet she supposedly came into our country by marrying her brother. Well, if that's true, she shouldn't be a congressman, and we should throw that.
Now stop for a second and notice the irony that many critics are pointing out. Ilhan Omar has built much of her political identity around forceful speeches on immigration policy. She regularly addresses the nation about border enforcement, refugee protections, asylum systems, and the moral direction of immigration law in America. But the moment attention shifts toward examining her own immigration background, the discussion suddenly becomes far more tense. And that raises a question that keeps surfacing in this debate. If immigration law is such a central issue in national politics, shouldn't it apply equally to everyone involved in that conversation, including the politicians themselves? That's why this topic has started drawing so much attention, because once that line of questioning begins, it pushes the debate into a far more uncomfortable and complicated place.
That is not the kind of person we should have in our leadership. It's not the type of person we should have in this country. And if we find out that she screwed up on her immigration stuff, she's got it.
Another spark that pushed this story into the spotlight came during the State of the Union address. That night is always one of the most closely watched political moments of the entire year. Millions of Americans tune in live. Cameras sweep across the chamber from every angle. And every single reaction inside that room can become viral content within seconds. During that broadcast, a disruption suddenly unfolded in the chamber. A protester reportedly connected to Ilhan Omar's office caused a scene in the middle of the speech, drawing immediate attention from everyone in the room. Within moments, Capitol Police stepped in and escorted the individual out, but by then the moment had already spread across social media like wildfire.
The State of the Union in the House chamber last night. Aaliyah was there as a guest of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, and the U.S. Capitol Police told me they arrested her because she was demonstrating, which is prohibited, during the speech and was ordered to sit down. And when she refused, they took her out.
The individual allegedly ignored repeated orders from security to take their seat. Capitol Police had no choice but to remove them from the gallery and arrest them for causing a disruption. Almost instantly, video of the incident began circulating across social media. Clips were shared, reshared, and replayed endlessly. Within minutes, Ilhan Omar's name was trending once again, dominating conversations across the internet and pulling the controversy back into the national spotlight.
President Trump saying the Justice Department and Congress are examining a rapid and significant increase in her reported wealth.
Critics were quick to tie the incident to the larger storm surrounding Ilhan Omar. They claimed it was a clear example of the political turmoil that seems to shadow her at every turn. Supporters pushed back, insisting it was merely a form of protest. But by the time the video went viral, the damage had already taken hold. The story had evolved. It was no longer just about immigration questions or legal scrutiny. It had become yet another chapter in an ever-expanding narrative of relentless political conflict and confrontation that refuses to fade.
And so what she's saying here is that they have some thought and process that's going into this, and she really couldn't say much. But listen, if what is out there is believe to be true, if that turns out to be true, I'm going to tell you, and I put a nice little time together for everybody, we're going to go through this together, there is a lot to go on, and it's very, very, very suspicious. I'm just saying.
And that brings us to the heart of the storm now gripping Washington. For years, the national conversation centered on Ilhan Omar's views, her speeches, her critiques of U.S. policy, her takes on foreign affairs. She was always the one under the microscope. But suddenly, everything has flipped. The focus has shifted entirely. Now the question isn't just what Omar thinks or says, it's whether America itself is turning its scrutiny directly onto her. And that shift has turned the debate into something far more intense, far more personal, and far more consequential than ever before.
Look, Ilhan Omar has some legal issues regarding her citizenship. I'll just leave it at that. I think that they've been well covered in the press, but it's shameful.
This marks a dramatic turning point in political momentum. The moment the focus shifts from a politician's opinions to the legality of their citizenship history, everything changes instantly. Every document is scrutinized. Every date and timeline becomes critical. Every unresolved question transforms into potential ammunition for political and now legal battles. And that is exactly the position Ilhan Omar faces today. A moment where the usual political noise, arguments, speeches, media fights, has escalated into something far graver. Now, real legal questions are being asked. Questions that have captured the attention of people with the authority to enforce the law.
Republicans calling for Ilhan's deportation.
In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of you.
The drama intensified when the fight leapt from the quiet halls of Congress straight onto the digital battlefield. Social media spats between politicians almost never stay contained. They erupt, and they erupt fast. That's exactly what happened when Ilhan Omar and Representative Nancy Mace began trading barbed remarks online. Omar fired back with a cutting comment, warning Mace to keep her behavior in check during Ramadan. That single line ignited a political firestorm across the internet, setting social feeds ablaze and drawing millions of eyes into the escalating feud.
Like Ilhan Omar gets humiliated again, and not only that, one of they, I guess, top Democrats is pretty much kicking Ilhan Omar out of the party.
Nancy Mace didn't back down. She struck back immediately, taking the argument into territory that very few politicians dare to touch publicly. She openly suggested that Ilhan Omar's citizenship deserves scrutiny, and even hinted that deportation could be on the table if any immigration fraud were ever proven. That statement ignited social media like gasoline thrown on dry kindling. Within hours, millions of views had piled up. This was no longer just fodder for cable news panels. The debate had exploded online, dominating political conversations across every major platform and drawing the eyes of an audience far larger than anyone could ignore.
Bill doubles down on telling Ilhan Omar to leave the Democrat Party for attacking white men. Said James Carville stood by his sharp criticism of Representative Ilhan Omar, urging her to leave the Democrat Party, arguing she and others don't take white male voters seriously enough.
And this is where the story evolves into something far larger than a typical political feud. The moment discussions of deportation enter mainstream political conversation, it ceases to be mere rhetoric. It transforms into a full-blown legal debate. People start dissecting immigration law. Lawyers step in to break down statutes. Commentators begin citing federal codes. Overnight, everyone seems to have become an expert on denaturalization procedures. Here's the harsh reality for any politician caught in the storm. The internet never forgets. Every past interview, every speech, every controversial remark becomes ammunition that critics can replay endlessly. Ilhan Omar has spent years issuing bold statements about U.S. policy, institutions, and foreign actions. To some supporters, these are acts of fearless critique.
Really, she just leaked, President Trump's military plans to bomb Iran 2 days before he did it. She had already leaked it. So she should be in trouble for that under investigation for treason.
Her opponents, however, interpret those same statements very differently, as outright hostility toward the country she now represents. Now, imagine how those words are perceived when the focus shifts to citizenship itself. Critics are asking a blunt, piercing question. If someone fled a war-torn country, received asylum, became a citizen, and even rose to Congress, why do so many of their speeches seem focused on condemning the very nation that made all of that possible? Depending on your political perspective, that question may seem unfair, but it's exactly what's being debated across the country right now. And foreign policy only fuels the fire. Ilhan Omar has long criticized U.S. military actions in the Middle East, taking strong stances on operations involving Iran and Israel. Those positions aren't unusual for progressive lawmakers. Yet her critics argue that the way she frames these critiques sometimes crosses the line from policy disagreement into language that sounds more like condemnation of the United States itself, intensifying an already volatile controversy.
These death threats on President Trump's life. Then she's mad over Jasmine Crockett, old ghetto Crockett, losing. And not only that, Jasmine Crockett blamed President Trump and the Republicans for her losing to another.
And that disagreement feeds directly into the narrative that Omar's opponents are pushing. They claim her statements consistently appear more sympathetic to foreign grievances than American strategic priorities. That accusation has followed her political career for years. Every time she comments on international issues, critics say it reinforces their argument. Whether fair or not, the perception has become part of the political battlefield surrounding her. Meanwhile, the internet. Investigation culture has been working overtime. Online researchers, activists, and political commentators have spent years digging through Omar's immigration timeline. They examine dates, documents, marriage records, and citizenship filings. Some of that research is serious analysis. Some of it is speculation, but in the modern political environment, the difference hardly matters. Once a question begins circulating online, it becomes permanent political material.
Pretty much saying that she needs to leave the Democrat Party because of the way that she attacked white men and a lot of the stuff. And then, like I said, you got other Democrats that's mad at her over her threats on President Trump, even though they don't like Trump, but they be like, man, you going too far with these threats, hoping the man die, just all type of weird.
This creates a constant feedback loop. Critics raise questions. Those questions spread online. Media outlets pick up the debate. Politicians respond publicly. That response generates more headlines. Then the internet reacts again. Every cycle adds more attention to the controversy. And every new wave of attention increases the pressure surrounding the politician at the center of the storm. Right now, that storm is clearly surrounding Ilhan Omar. Calls for investigations are circulating through Congress. Commentators are discussing denaturalization laws on television. Political figures are publicly arguing about her citizenship status. Whether any legal action ever occurs is a question for courts and investigators, but the political damage from the debate itself is already enormous.
And then she's already mad that Nancy Mason's talking about deporting her back to Somalia where she belonged. Even Randy Feynman talking about it, President Trump been talking about it, and that's the reason why she's pissed.
Because the central argument critics are making is brutally simple. They say the United States offered Omar safety, opportunity, education, and eventually political power. They say she went from a refugee camp to the United States Congress. In their view, that story represents one of the most dramatic examples of American opportunity imaginable, and then they ask a blunt question. What exactly has Omar given back to the country that gave her that opportunity? Supporters of Omar reject that framing completely. They argue that criticizing government policies is not betrayal. They say dissent is a fundamental part of American democracy. From their perspective, Omar's willingness to challenge U.S. policy demonstrates the very freedoms that make America different from authoritarian regimes. In other words, her critics see disloyalty while her supporters see democratic participation. But political perception often matters more than philosophical arguments. Right now, the perception battle is brutal. Every speech Omar gives, every social media post she writes, and every argument she enters is being analyzed through the lens of this controversy. Critics frame everything she says as proof of hostility toward America. Supporters frame every attack against her as proof of political persecution.